off by saying congratulations on this album. I've had a chance to sit down and take a listen to it. I just have to say congratulations.
Thank you. That means a lot. I appreciate it.
So, how do you feel now that your debut album is about to be released out there for everybody to hear?
Well, it is out there for everyone. We released it on October 1st. So it's been out for 3 weeks, a little over now, and honestly, it was pretty overwhelming, like the first few days that it was out, just like seeing the reaction to it, and I kind of like gave up trying to keep up because I had a little bit of like an overstimulation going on, but now, you know, I've been home for about a week, and I'm just ready to get back out there and play songs and you know, keep spreading the word about the album that we created.
Did you feel pressure at all with this album? Because your band became noticed so quickly by music fans out there. Did that put pressure on you with this debut album?
It did. You know, we only had a handful of songs out before we were in the studio writing the record, and we definitely knew that people were eager for it, and we knew the process it was going to take was going to be a little bit longer than some wanted to wait it. But honestly, our hardest critics are ourselves as, you know, musicians. So we, I think the pressure that we put on ourselves was probably the biggest weight that we had on our shoulders. But we were able to manage it really well, and you know, make it out alive.
How do you manage to get over that? Because I know for myself as a writer, I always read back my writing and I always think, nah, that's rubbish, it's not good. How do you get over that to the point where you actually feel confident enough to release your music out to the public?
I think it's just like a lot of drafts and proofreading, lyrics especially, and I think it just, like, you know, the first take is never good enough, you know, making sure that you do it enough times until you get, like, the perfect take and the perfect line and exactly what you want, just because, you know, people who are listening might not, you know, think anything of it, but, like, one or two word changes, like, really could make a difference to me, and, you know, being confident about what you put out there is really important.
Talking about those lyrics, there's some pretty powerful stuff on this album and some very deep topics. Tell us a little bit about some of the themes and topics that people can expect to hear on this album.
Yeah, we talk a lot about mental health. We talk a lot about being a survivor of abuse. We talk about, you know, the socioeconomic, political issues that are going on and the kind of suffering that entails, and, you know, what kind of change that we would like to see going forward, as, you know, as far as that goes. We talk about love and heartbreak and mourning the loss of friends and family, and lots of topics to take in.
That's a lot of topics that a lot of people out there will be able to relate to. Are you ready for people reaching out to the band and talking to the band about their own issues and things that they've been through as well?
Yeah, and that's definitely something that I have seen and dealt with quite a bit since we put out songs like Fragments of a Bitter Memory and Until Morning Comes and Severing the Senses, which are all things that I've dealt with personally, that I think a lot of people struggle with in silence. And so, you know, hearing that people relate to it, and hopefully that the art helps people, you know, heal through processes, because it's helped me heal as well. And that's ultimately what I was going for when I wrote those songs.
Yeah, I was going to ask that. Do you find it very therapeutic to write about things that are so personal? Is it a way for you to let it out and to kind of get it out of your system in a way?
It is cathartic. I mean, a lot of people, if you've ever been to therapy, or anyone listening to this that's ever been to therapy, knows that it's not always easy or fun. So, you know, there were moments throughout the writing process that were, you know, a little more difficult to, you know, handle than writing a regular song. But at the end of the day, like, I feel like it's a fulfilling part of my journey to be able to talk about these things publicly, and ultimately definitely does help with the healing process.
Sometimes people say that when a singer or an artist writes like that, it's almost like letting the public and letting your close friends read your diary. Is that something that you would agree with? And what's that moment like when you sit down first with your bandmates and let them read what you've written as well?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely is like a diary, especially because a lot of these topics that I write about are stems from journal entries that I've done. So that's kind of my process of writing. Is I go through something or I struggle with something, and I just write about it in a journal, like I'm just talking to myself, and compartmentalize my thoughts and put it on paper, and then I'll go through later and comb through it and make it poetry in a way. So that's very true. And as far as like my bandmates hearing what I have to say, like we've all known each other for a long time. They know that the things that I've been through, but I feel like sometimes they're like, damn, or that's really good, or they don't know exactly what to say, which is okay because, it's definitely a heavy topic, and some of them have also struggled with the similar things that we're talking about. So.
Yeah, the world has been a pretty crazy place over the last 2 years. We're just coming out of a 220-day lockdown here in Melbourne. How difficult was it for you all to work on this album with so many things going on in the world, especially with lockdowns and restrictions and things like that?
Yeah. Well, we traveled to New Jersey, Belleville, New Jersey, to record the record, and honestly, there was a lot of darkness surrounding COVID at the time, so everything was closed, and it was part of our policy at the studio that we didn't leave and we didn't have guests. So we literally were locked down in the studio writing a record for 5 weeks, and honestly, I think that was a huge contributor to how everything came out. We didn't have any distractions going on in the outside world. We didn't have a tour coming up. I didn't have a job because, everything was shut down. And so we were able to completely focus on what we were writing. And although I'm not thankful for the circumstances that got us there, I'm thankful for the opportunity to completely dive in and make it, make my life 100% this record for 5 weeks.
And what was it like working with Randy as well? He's someone with so much experience in the industry. What was he like to work with, and what do you think he brought to the band's sound?
He completely elevated our sound, as well as all of us as musicians individually and people as well. He just really has he's special. He has a special talent when it comes to producing and writing, and we kind of sat down and said, this is what we want to incorporate and this is what we want to accomplish. And he, just made everything come to life the way that we had imagined. And I couldn't be more thankful.
Talking of the restrictions and everything just before, where are you at now where you are? Are you able to get out and start doing shows? Because I know some states in America you can and some you can't. And if so, what's that been like?
Yeah, I'm in Portland, Oregon, which is in the northwestern part of the United States. And honestly, before we left for tour, the Delta variant was, cases through the roof, hospitals completely at capacity. And so I was really stressed about going out there and, and all of the restrictions that we would face. But honestly, this part of our country seems to be one of the only ones that really is trying to even combat the disease anymore on a community level. So we just did a full U.S. tour, and pretty much everywhere is operating as if life is completely normal. For the most part, there are some venues that are really doing their part to make sure that people are wearing masks or vaccinated, but for the most part, things seem to be just kind of moving along like we're not living through a pandemic still, which is unfortunate.
Yeah. Did it feel good, though, to be back on stage and being able to perform these tracks after kind of a forced break in a way?
Yes, absolutely. I have never needed anything so much in my life than to get up there and play shows.
So what are the plans going forward now? Like, I know that Dying Wish are getting a lot of Australian fans very, very quickly. So what are the plans going forward now? Will you try and tour internationally when you can as well?
Yeah, yeah. We have plans to go everywhere as soon as we possibly can. So, as soon as the governments will allow us to be in Australia, we will be there.
And I have to ask, have you ever been to Australia before? And if not, what are you looking forward to when you get here?
I have not, and honestly, I don't really know a whole lot about Australia. But that the culture is very different, and honestly, what I'm most excited for, besides the music, is the wildlife. Because you guys have a lot of really interesting indigenous animals there, like koala bears and kangaroos and all that I've never seen. So
Definitely, yeah. No, I live in a country area, so we actually do have kangaroos around here. And when I go to my father-in-law's place, there's normally a couple of koalas in his trees. So definitely, that's a
wow.
yeah, it's a great thing to do. But also, aside from that, now that things are opening back up, do you think that gives you a bigger opportunity now to reach out to even more fans that might come along and see you play live for the first time?
Yeah, absolutely. And as everyone's comfort levels continue to adjust back to a normal place, I think that we'll have an opportunity to, as we continue to tour, which we plan to do as much as possible, to reach new fans and have personal connections with them as well, as something that I'm looking forward to doing.
Yeah, and have you already started to look towards album number two as well? Because I know a lot of bands, when they were in lockdown, actually started to write enough music for two or three albums.
Yeah, we haven't started writing yet, just because we've been so busy working with promotions for LP1, and then doing music videos for LP1, and now we're preparing for another tour that we're doing. We're leaving next week for that, so we haven't had time to sit down and write, but we are talking about what we want to accomplish with LP2 already. So
Awesome. Well, Emma, I know we are running out of time very, very quickly. So to finish up, I'd just like to say again, congratulations on this album. And what would you like to say to all the Aussies out there that are hearing this album for the first time?
that this is the best representation of ourselves that we wanted to put forth, and we're kind of taking pages out of the playbook from an older sound, but also trying to refresh it with our own special little take. And that there's a lot of difficult conversations that we have with ourselves and with the listener in this record, but we just hope that it inspires a better world moving forward, and also a lot of mosh.